Here with Sarah Ayres discussing her new column about apprenticeships and millennials. So just to kind of start off, Sarah, apprenticeships sound like something from the Middle Ages. So how would that benefit the U.S. economy today?
Yeah, Americans are largely very unfamiliar with apprenticeships. So first things first, an apprenticeship is a paid, structured form of worker training that combines on-the-job learning and classroom-based or work-based education. Apprenticeships have been shown to dramatically increase workers' wages. They've been shown to boost productivity of the companies that sponsor apprentices, and that's why many industrialized nations use them as really a central tool for developing a highly skilled workforce. And we believe that by expanding apprenticeships in the U.S., we can strengthen our economy by helping businesses connect with skilled workers, and also by raising workers' wages and improving their employment outcomes.
Okay, interesting. That's very interesting. So you mentioned apprenticeships already exist in the world. So globally, how does the U.S. rank with apprenticeships? Because I know a lot of people have internships in the U.S., but how does the U.S. rank globally as far as apprenticeships?
Yeah, so like I said, many industrialized countries use apprenticeships much more widely than the U.S. Apprenticeships are very underutilized in this country. So we have about 350,000 apprentices today. That's about, after you control for population size, 7% of the number of apprentices in England. And if the U.S. were to have the same number of apprentices per capita as Germany, for example, we would have 7 million apprentices in this country.
It's a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. We're very underutilized, we think.
So looking specifically at apprenticeships, are there any specific industries that would utilize from an apprenticeship program here in the U.S. that maybe they're working for abroad?
Yeah, so here in the U.S., the bulk of apprentices are in the skilled trades, and the construction industry in particular is known for having a number of very well-established, high-quality apprenticeship programs. But when you think about it, that concept of paid formal training can really be applied to almost any occupation. So, for example, medical doctors go through an apprenticeship of sorts. We don't call it an apprenticeship, but during their internships and residencies, doctors are paid to do on-the-job learning and classroom-based learning. So it's really a model that is translatable to a number of industries here in the U.S. that aren't currently using apprentices. So if you want to look at the UK, for example, they recently launched a huge effort to expand the reach of apprenticeships, and now the bulk of new apprentices in the UK are actually going into service sector work, so like business and retail.
That's very interesting. I like how you described medical school in your residency, because that's something that everyone is familiar with here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And you kind of understand as opposed to an internship.
Right, it's kind of that same concept, yeah.
Very interesting. So with an apprenticeship, what would that pay model look like? I know a lot of internships, you're paid by the hour, you're unpaid. There's not really a set in stone rule here. Apprenticeships, is that going to be more just like an internship pay, or is there a different pay model?
Right, so apprenticeships are very different from internships. So first things first, an apprenticeship is a job. So an apprentice is a paid employee that earns a paycheck for his or her work while earning their apprenticeship. That's very different from an internship, obviously, many of which are unpaid. And in addition, an apprentice earns a certificate once they complete their apprenticeship that they can take anywhere in the country that tells an employer that they have demonstrated a certain set of skills. So that also differs from an internship in that very few internships really involve that kind of formal training.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense in differentiating between the two.
Yeah, it's a completely different beast.
So that's more of like the student, young American side of the apprenticeships. Going to the workforce and employers, what benefits will they see from this apprenticeship program?
So workers see tremendous benefits from apprenticeships. So workers who complete apprenticeships earn higher wages than those who don't. So researchers have found that over the course of a lifetime, an apprenticeship completer will actually earn about $300,000 more than a comparable job seeker. So that's, on the worker side. On the employer side, employers who sponsor apprenticeships see improved productivity, they decrease turnover, they can improve safety in their workplace, and for these reasons, American employers who do sponsor apprentices largely highly recommend them. So you see in a survey of employer sponsors of apprentices in the U.S. that 87% said that they would strongly recommend apprentices, and another 11% said that they would recommend them with some reservation. So in total, that's 98% of employers saying that they would recommend apprentices. So really, employers really do love them once they use them.
So American businesses, there wouldn't be any hesitation there. They definitely see a growing need for apprenticeships.
Yeah, well, so I think one of the big hurdles is that people, employers included, really aren't familiar with how apprenticeships can work or how they can benefit from them. So in South Carolina, they've engaged in a huge marketing effort over the past few years and have managed to increase their number of employer sponsors by something like 500%. So, to me that says once employers have the opportunity to participate in an apprenticeship program and see what it does for them, they love it.
And I know if the apprenticeships are out there, how can students, young Americans, become connected to find these apprenticeships? Because I know just applying for internships, it's just a huge task. Are there any higher education institutions or colleges that currently are working with this model that we can look to?
Yeah, so one thing about apprentices, one thing that's really great is that an apprentice gets an education with little or no debt. And that's because in many cases, apprentices can earn college credit for the work that they do on the job. So you'll see, for example, at Ivy State, I think it's Ivy State Community College in Indiana, is one place where they have an initiative where workers who are participating in one of several apprenticeship programs that are recognized by the college can actually obtain an associate's degree or a technical certificate using the credits that they've earned while working on the job. So we think that once we start to expand apprentices in the U.S., we'll see more of that, those kind of agreements. And that's really important because millennials are looking at college costs that have gone up 250% in the past 30 years, an average student debt level of $25,000. And I think for many young people, an apprenticeship and getting an education with very little debt is a really important or a really appealing opportunity.
And you brought up an interesting point with student debt. I know a lot of our readers and our audience have gone to college, student debt. Everyone's situation is unique, and so we kind of look at the concept of the middle class, and is that something that's in the future for millennials, especially with the student debt crisis? How will apprenticeships help millennials and young Americans reach that middle class American dream?
Yeah, I think apprenticeships can be a really important tool for connecting young people to well-paying middle-class jobs, and particularly well-paying middle-class jobs that don't require obtaining a 4-year degree, especially up front. Because, high school graduates now are looking at a situation in which, like I said, the cost of college has skyrocketed, student debt is out of control, and in many cases, students really don't have the information that they need to evaluate whether the college they're looking at is able to provide them with a good education at a reasonable price. And right now, all of that risk is really on the student. So expanding the use of apprenticeships is a good way of connecting high school grads to these kind of good lifelong careers that don't necessarily require that they, enroll in a 4-year college right out of high school, without precluding further higher education should they choose to do so in the future. But like I said, it's an immediate job and it's a connection to the workforce.
It's awesome. It's definitely encouraging as a millennial myself, and I'm sure our audience thinks so as well. Well, thank you again for sitting down and explaining this.
Absolutely.
I know starting off, apprenticeships may have sounded like something out of the Middle Ages, but this conversation has been great, and the report's great, the column is excellent, so we'll definitely post it on Gen Progress. I encourage you to read more about it.